On 5th of July 2024, Kerala Congress X account posted a video snippet of business journalist Suchita Dalal, where she seems to be questioning the PE ratio of Adani Enterprises at its peak. Ms. Dalal also compared the PE ratio of some other Indian listed companies and asked some suggestive questions, layered with a lot of insinuations. Dalal, who is the managing director of business website MoneyLife, said that when Adani Enterprises stock price was at its peak, that is at rupees 4190 in January 2023, at that time its PE was at 427. Except this is misleading, as even at the peak of rupees 4190, the stock traded at PE of 162. From March 2022 to December 2022, the company had an EPS or earning per share of rupees 25.83, which implied that the stock, even at its peak, traded at a PE of 162. PE is the price to earning ratio of a company. It measures the relativity of a company's share price to its earning per share. Hence, in this case, it would be 4190 divided by 25.83, that is 162. Suchita Dalal quoted her husband Debashish Basu, saying that Basu wrote in his February 2023 column that Adani Enterprises traded at a PE of 427. Now the question is, where did this figure of 427 come from? If we look at the company's earnings per share for trailing 4 quarters, it was rupees 6.34 in the quarter ending March 2022, rupees 8.10 in the quarter ending 30th June 2022, rupees 4.18 in the quarter ending 30th September 2022, and rupees 7.21 in the quarter ending 31st December 2022. It means the company had an EPS of 25.83. So at the peak price of 4190 in January 2023, the PE comes to 162. This makes one wonder what could be the motive behind Debashish Basu's claim that the company's PE was 427 when Hindenburg triggered a crash in the company's stock. Suchita Dalal then raised a question that what would have happened if Reliance had traded at a PE of 427? She then answered this question herself by saying that had Reliance Industries traded at a PE of 400, the market capitalization of Reliance Industries would have been 16 times more than what it is today. She further quoted Basu to tell us that had TCS been similarly valued at a PE of 400, capitalization of BSE Sensex would have been 8 to 10 times higher than what it is today. Except as a business journalist, she does not provide any analysis or reasons behind these bizarre comparisons between apples and oranges of comparing companies from different sectors using their PE ratio. Question is, why would Reliance Industries Limited trade at a PE of 400? PE in a sector is determined by various factors such as the nature of business in the sector, lifetime of the sector, estimated growth rate of the sector, etc. Let us keep in mind that PE of different companies in the same sector are different. For example, Hindustan Unilever, ITC Limited, Nestle, and Godrej Consumers come from the same sector, that is FMCG. However, stocks of these companies trade at different PEs. If we check, we find that at current prices, PE of Hindustan Liver is 57, that of ITC is 26. In Godrej Consumers case, it is 75, and Nestle commands a PE of 99 at current prices. Now, what would this imply? This implies that not only should one not compare PEs of companies from different sectors, but one cannot even compare PEs of the companies of the same sector. Moving forward, let us examine Suchita Dalal's statement that had TCS been trading at a PE of 427, the BSE Sensex capitalization would have been 8 to 10 times higher than what it is today. While the statement with respect to BSE's market cap may be correct, the question is, can TCS be expected to trade at the same PE as Adani Enterprises? Answer is definitely no. Let us examine how companies from the same sector, and that is software or software consultancy, fare on the PE front. TCS at current prices enjoys a PE of 31. Wipro at current prices has a PE of 25. Infosys has a PE of 26. However, Tech Mahindra, which comes from the same sector, has a PE of 60. Now the question is, why does Tech Mahindra trade at a PE of 60? Answer lies in the nature of its business, its management practices, corporate governance, cash flow, operating margins, and various other aspects of its operation. Now let us test the claim that Reliance Industries should trade at 400. So Reliance Industries' main business is that of refineries. It has other verticals and businesses ranging from life sciences to organized retails, petroleum products, and its retailing, and many more segments. If we purely go by the business of refinery, the sector normally enjoys a PE ranging between 11 to 13. However, since Reliance has other businesses, because of its comprehensive nature of sector and operation, it enjoys a PE of 26. So the PE of 26 is an adjusted PE because of the other businesses it has within its fold. Let us be clear about the PE of a stock and its valuation, because there needs to be a clarity why PE is calculated. PE is not a valuation matrix. It is an outcome of valuation and earning. PE is based on past data, but valuation is normally based on future prospects of a company. That's why market participants never look at PE to determine valuation of a company. So calculating PE of a rapidly growing enterprise for the purpose of valuation is not a good way of looking at a stock. As I said, PE is based on past earnings and valuation is based on future prospects of the company. This is exactly why so many stocks have large PE, but market participants still invest or trade on those stocks. For example, Zomato today trades at a PE of more than 500. BHEL, a PSU, trades at a PE of more than 400. Godrej Industries trades at a PE of more than 500. And Sobha Developers, a real estate firm, trades at a PE of 440. Why? Because investors and traders look at the future prospects of these stocks. Now look at this list. This article by Money Control lists companies from across the sectors which have a PE ranging from 450 to 11900. Did Sucheta Dalal or Debashish Basu come up with an argument that had Reliance traded at a PE of 11,900 or say 11,000, its market capitalization would have become so and so? No, they did not pick a company from this list. In fact, Adani Enterprises does not feature in this list of companies with high PEs. So what was the motive behind singling out Adani Enterprises? Had abnormally higher PE been the reason, they would have targeted a company from this Money Control list, but they did not do so. What may be the possible reason? Perhaps they targeted Adani Enterprises due to its high market capitalization. Because companies with higher PE but lower market capitalization are not fit or attractive enough for short selling, or should we say for triggering a crash in stock markets, thereby destabilizing the Indian economy. Also, it is not normal to compare the PE of the companies of two different sectors. However, if someone does so, there must be a reason for doing so, which of course is not in accordance with the normal market practices. Can there be an agenda for such comparison? We do not know, but we cannot rule out either. Anybody who knows a thing or two about the stock pricing would never imagine Reliance at Adani Enterprises or TCS and Adani Enterprises to trade at the same PE. Why do Debashish Basu or Sucheta Dalal want us to believe that these stocks from different sectors can trade at the same PE? Here is where things get slightly more interesting. In October 2023, we had reported how Dalal's name had come up during the cash for query controversy that had shook the parliament. TMC MP Mahua Moitra was accused by Supreme Court advocate Jay Anand Dehadre of asking motivated questions in the parliament to target Adani Group on behest of another businessman, Darshan Hiranandani. She did so to further her political career, it was alleged. In a signed affidavit, Hiranandani has said he indeed had the details of Moitra's Lok Sabha login credentials, through which he posed specific questions targeting Adani. He also said he gave gifts, including luxury items, and also helped with renovation of her official residence for the same. Hiranandani has also named a few other people who he claimed were involved in helping Mahua Moitra in posing certain motivated questions to target Adani, his business rival, as well as PM Modi. Other than leaders from opposition parties such as Rahul Gandhi, Shashi Tharoor, he also named journalist Sucheta Dalal and prominent lawyers Shardul and Pallavi Shroff. Dalal had then denied having been approached by Moitra for help. However, an old Twitter interaction between the two had made rounds back then that suggested otherwise. She is a veteran journalist with significant clout in the power corridors. The 60-year-old journalist began her journalism career in 1984 with Fortune India and then moved on to other media houses like Business Standard and The Economic Times. In 1992, when she was with the Times of India, Dalal broke the story of the massive stock market scam which involved market manipulation that was carried out by Harshad Mehta along with many bankers and politicians. She was also one of the key figures in the Ketan Parekh stock market scam that was unearthed in 2001, which led to a major stock market crash. Dalal's name also propped up in the 2013 National Spot Exchange Limited scam. It was alleged that Dalal knew about the scam for at least 15 months before it broke. Here is how the scam had then unfolded. The National Spot Exchange Limited was established by one Jignesh Shah in 2008 in line with the then Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan's vision to create a single market for both manufacture as well as agriculture produce. The NSEL was the first spot exchange established under the joint ownership of the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Investigations led by the Enforcement Directorate as well as Economic Offences Wing revealed that the brokers missold NSEL products to their clients by assuring them fixed returns. The defaulters hypothecated stocks and produced fake warehouse receipts and siphoned off the default money. In October 2015, NSEL Investor Action Group, the investor of NSEL, who were defrauded and dissatisfied by investigation wrote a letter to the Mumbai Police Commissioner alleging shady role of Suchita Dalal in the scam. As per the letter, a copy of which is being shared on your screen, Suchita Dalal knew of the NSEL scam since May 2012, months before it became public. Here is a copy of the leaked email of Dalal. The mail dated 8th May 2012 was addressed to communications personnel of NSEL, and a copy of the same was marked to Anjani Sinha, Devashish Basu, Setu Shah and Jignesh Shah. Suchita raised questions about the nature of transactions within the NSEL. In the mail, she also expressed concerns regarding the increase in volume of transactions. She mentioned that the IBMA, that is the Indian Bullion Market Association, was acting as a broker on the NSEL platform. The IBMA was a subsidiary of NSEL, and this would amount to insider trading. She also suggested how the transactions were not spot contracts but were illegal, something none of the investors were aware of. She also mentioned how this is a ready forward contract trade, and having broken the Harshad Mehta scam in 1992, her journalism instincts would have kicked in and she would have figured out this was yet another such scam in the making. The letter by the NSEL Investors Action Group mentions that Dalal had a close relationship with Jignesh Shah and his FTIL group. It claimed that her company Money Life secured an amount of Rs 88 lakh in 2011 to 2013 from Ticker Plant Limited and FTIL, Jignesh Shah company, as shown as income received in advance. The letter urged the police to investigate the said transaction. Publicly, Money Life has denied the allegations of having any relationship with Jignesh Shah. The letter further alleged that subsequent to the above email of NSEL top management, Dalal met Jignesh Shah and Anjani Sinha in 2012 at Mumbai's Taj Lands End. The letter also mentioned that she has denied such a meeting. However, to prove the same, they met. The IAG shared a transcript of alleged conversation between Sinha and an investor. The IAG also said that they have audio recording of the conversation which they could provide for further investigation. A 2018 report by Business Today suggested that Priyanka Gandhi Vadra rented out her farmhouse to FTIL for Rs 6.7 lakh per month back in 2013. This was at the time when the Congress-led UPA was investigating the NSEL scam. Interestingly, along with TMC's Mahua Moitra, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has been in the forefront of attacking the current ruling dispensation by racking up the Adani controversy. But this is not all. A January 2024 expose by an OSINT account, Disinfo Labs, exposed how certain NGOs have a strong pharma lobby outside of India, which regularly attack India pharma companies. Remember the 2022-23 attack on India pharma companies? Just after the Indian pharma industry was at the forefront of COVID vaccines and getting appreciation. Remember how many drugs were allegedly claimed to be not fit for consumption? In July 2023, Bloomberg published a report on alleged bad Indian medicines in Iraq. For the report, Bloomberg had sent the drugs to US firm Valijor for the test. In 2019, Valijor was accused of fabricating a report for a medicine Zantac. A US court had pulled them up for using unreliable methods for results. In 2022, the US authorities had also issued them a warning for using invalid methods and subpar equipment. Interestingly, one of the patrons of Valijor is one Dinesh Thakur, a pharma-based activist who claims that he had exposed Ranbaxy back in 2003. Thakur claims to be on a mission against so-called bad medicines and runs an NGO, Thakur Family Foundation. Thakur has a dubious record of anti-Indian pharma activism. Dinesh Thakur's Thakur Family Foundation funds a lot of journalists as well as institutions and civil groups in India. Amongst these, Suchita Dalal's Money Life Foundation is one of the beneficiaries. Interestingly, in 2015, Money Life exposed that Sun Pharma had taken over Ranbaxy, which led its stocks to crash. Curious, isn't it, how Dalal invariably finds herself in the middle of news about controversies, which led to or are surrounded by stock market crashes? The fact that Suchita Dalal disquoted her husband, Mr. Devashish Basu's article and questioned the valuation of Adani Enterprise without offering any analysis would certainly raise questions. As I said earlier, for investing in stocks, PE may not be the sole criteria for all classes of investors or traders. It would be interesting to hear answers to these questions from Ms. Dalal. Will she respond? Well, let's hope so.